immediately. And I would just sort of multiply that into the millions of loans that was happening and the kind of cost save and the efficiencies it brought upon, not just by cutting down the pages, but the downstream processes as well. I think that gave a boost. And then finally...
Sorry to come in, but where do you see it from now on? Because when you look at the trends, you know, the emerging trends, but you're talking of shrinking it further. So it's nice that you're talking about the way you've seen, you know, technology change. But where do we see ourselves going now as underwriters, as particularly on the delivery side?
Just give me a minute. So I think absolutely right. So all of this happened, and now we are in possibly what we are calling as the third step, and so the second stage was more like becoming cashless and paperless, right? The third step is where now this is the era of possibilities, where multiple things are playing out. So obviously, this sector is so information rich in terms of hardly any customers who've not borrowed before, in terms of the different social media usage patterns that are there. So there's a lot of data that is available, the center meeting data that is there, attendance tracking that gets done out, to be able to sort of assimilate that and to be able to take an informed credit decision allows us to sort of look at the credit worthiness of borrowers, allows us to kind of price loans differently and offer them to borrowers that is there. In terms of just the credit processes, Ajay, I'd like to tell you that people are sort of right now dabbling with and looking at even doing out video discussions, right, apart from being physically there. They're looking to kind of use geofencing and geotagging data as well to kind of identify where the households are. So all of that on the credit side, on the collections, I mean, largely we've been cashless on the disbursal side, not so much on the repayment side. However, that itself is now undergoing a transformation. We've now begun to see different players begin to do between 5 to 25 to 30% collections through repayment modes, and that's where I think some of these trends will just keep building forward. And these are very small, subtle changes, but are really allowing the MFIs and the various lending institutions to kind of look very positively at what lies ahead.
Okay. Thanks for the initial thought. So, to the next player, I would say Sudhir. I think we will come one by one. So, let's have first the lenders, speak about it. So, Sudhir, we know that collections is touched upon is happening. KYC, costs have been brought down, and we have brought down, the cost of disbursement, and so on and so forth. But still, we have large field presence required. We still have central meetings. We still have overheads, so most MFIs are, manpower driven. So, what are the trends at reducing that and reducing the need for the field? Are technologies pushing us towards that? Are you, being approached by solution providers in that sense or something? So, Rakesh.
Thanks, Ajay. So, I am Sudhir Madhavan. I had retail finance.
Well, request first to Rakesh from Jana. Sorry, Sudhir from Jana. Yeah, sorry.
So, I had the Jana retail finance for Jana. It's primarily microfinance division. To answer your question, Ajay, you got our operating cost down to what Susan Thomas said today, down to 6.5-7%. But we still believe to be an assisted journey. I think the operating cost can only come down when it becomes a self-journey. You got a 24 crores households in India, out of which 8 crores are serviced by microfinance. Even if you take 8 crores households and convert at least 50% of them getting into a self-assisted journey, instead of an assisted journey by a microfinance field executive, look at the kind of manpower we're actually looking at which reduces. We can use this manpower to actually look at the other balance 16 crore households which needs an assisted journey. So as we grow, my feeling in this market today is customers have evolved. We have technology, but I think the industry hasn't evolved to adopting the technology to its fullest extent. So you have technology providers which are there, which can do video KYC, customers know how to do GPay, customers know how to do cashless payment, they know how to cashless. You have technology which can you give them, but as the industry adopted to this kind of a model here, because of an old model which says that center meeting is crucial. That's why we need a lot of people. Why can't you have a center meeting which is video based, which is virtual? It saves the time of the customer as well as the field officer. So I think industry needs to evolve to a certain level of a certain maturity of a customer. A lady which is 35 years of age today and a lady who is 35 years of age 20 years back have a different profile. So how do you manage this transition of the industry, of the consumer profile, and make sure that your technology providers and your processes are actually inbuilt to take the customer to the next level, and thereby you have to make sure that the operating cost gets reduced. So we actually started doing a lot of virtual meetings, which can happen, it need not happen at 7 in the morning. It can happen at 8 in the night when she comes back from work. The time of virtual meetings, is it possible to send us some snippets, which is for financial inclusion and house savings across the board? So these can be de facto things which the industry can use as the customers mature, and we also have to start maturing in our delivery process. And that will actually help you to bring your OPEX down from 6.5%, 7% down to 3.5%. You will have interest rate competition coming in.
But Sudhir, just, I was very surprised to hear in the morning that actually the number of accounts per field officer has come to almost half in the morning. The speaker say that.
Yes.
So is that not, going in the opposite direction when it comes to reducing the overheads? You want to have less field people. So if you're going to grow as an industry, and if you're going to reach, let's say, twice the number of beneficiaries, and the manpower is actually going to go 4 times, I think the technology's aim is to bring down the need of people, right?
I totally agree with you.
I'm very surprised to get that perspective in the morning from the data. Sometimes the data points out
Data points
something different.
What you're saying is absolutely right. The data points are the difference. Because we, as a senior management, still don't have a confidence saying that.
So Rakesh, I think you said that the solutions are there, but the adoption is still, facing hurdles, right? So Rakesh, what are your thoughts on the efficiency side?
Very quickly, currently, microfinance, I'm assuming we are aware about the distribution model and operating model. High level, if you look at, it consists of sourcing of customer, then underwriting, then collection, right? So these are the 3 important pieces. So if we look at the innovative trends, current technology trends, we have mobile application, we have lending platform for onboarding all these customers. Some of the MFIs are already doing that, including live. Second, underwriting, of course, some of them are doing, there is large database, and there is huge possibility of this doing the algo-based, AI-based this credit underwriting model, which we are also doing, and definitely it makes the decision making faster. The cost of due diligence has definitely come down, right, and it is much more effective. Third thing, collection. So collection again, with the help of database, things have started coming down. At least you can predict. But now when it comes to the impact on operating cost or overhead, Mr. Kapur was talking about, see, we will have to look at the constituent of the cost. High level, the operating, there is huge possibility of, in coming future, but with the size of the industry growing, the kind of people we require to handle the entities, the scale, the cost has not come down, right? At the same time, the credit cost has gone up because of various factors, right? But there is immense possibility of operating cost coming down if we continue that way. That is number 1. Number 2, I wanted to talk about, see, if we want to see the impact of technology on microfinance, one thing we forget, that if we keep the distribution model, that JNZ, central meeting, discipline constant, then we will be able to see the incremental impact of technological innovation. But if we are openly thinking about, because it is happening, because if we are not keeping the center meeting constant, and already center sizes are coming down, right? We are having 2-3 members center, all the entities are experiencing that, and now we have much more data about the customer, right? So with the help of all those things, if we can, make necessary changes, we can explore different distribution model. The only the challenge I see here that high level the microfinance customers are, majority of them are rural based, so I see the training problem, they are not self-assisted, they need training, the infrastructure problem, the internet, connectivity and all those things are there. That's the reason it is not happening, but we are seeing the early signs where, the impact is happening. So in urban and semi-urban areas where customers can, go through end-to-end this digital mode, so we are seeing the impact. So that is high level lighting.
Thank you, Rakesh. I think very important pointer I picked from there. I think when RBI came with the microfinance guidelines last year, so everybody spoke of this will be microfinance 2.0. There was no mention of group there. So throw the field open as to the new structure for microfinance. And there is this wariness, which is the central meeting, that how many people actually work there. Does the peer pressure actually work? So do we really need to break away from there? So now we look at the solution providers, how they look at it, what are they seeing the changes in the emerging, choices being made. So I'll start with, first with Mr. Madhan, Visvanathan. I think they're providing that enterprise level solutions. So they have, clients on the banking side, and they have clients on the microfinance side. They already have, and they must be in discussion with several more. So where you see the industry going in terms of choices for overall reduction, shrinkage of, the delivery costs? Maybe you can take from the next speaker.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. My name is Madhan Visvanathan. I lead the banking practice as Bahwan CyberTek BCT, which is a large tech transformation player for the financial services segment. Right. Ajay, coming to your point, broadly, if you look at from a technology standpoint for financial services, I think India has seen maturity curve happening across phases, right? It started with some of the large government-run banks and some of the private sector banks, and then we have seen the maturity transgressing through the rest of the players in the financial services space as well, right? A small finance bank, payment bank, and some of the NBCs as well. In our view, as a tech player, we believe MFI is probably at the cusp of that transformation, right? And there are far more tech solutions and enablers available for MFIs today, vis-a-vis the same players maybe about 5 or 6 years back as well. So from that perspective, while it's the beginning of a journey for a lot of MFIs from a technology transformation using technologies and enablers for financial services, but from a timing perspective, I think it is far more, I think they are far more ready, right, number one. Number two, in terms of some of the cost points that, Ajay, that you have brought out, I think there are various levers today. Most of the players in financial services are looking at in terms of leveraging technology from a overall cost to serve and cost optimization, right? Whether it is origination, whether it is servicing, and then eventually collections as well. So the entire value chain today, as tech player, we are seeing a lot more interest for organizations to embrace technology. It could be in areas of cloud, could be areas of digital from an acquisition perspective. AI to a large extent, not only in the areas of customer support, but we are seeing a lot more people wanting to leverage AI for fraud detection, collections as well, right? So that's a cloud, digital, data, AI. I think all of that we are significantly seeing as investments being planned. Is it a holistic investment like what we have seen in banks and maybe some of the large NBFCs? The answer is no. But as Rakesh rightly pointed out, are people started embracing this? I think the answer is yes. Looking at already credit scoring models, looking at a better view on risk assessment of your clients, looking at in pockets in terms of how do you look at digital, but of course a lot more to be done, right? So from our view, Ajay, from a tech player perspective, we are seeing those change. I think it's just a matter of time in terms of how that fructifies into an overall.
But which piece excites you? Which of the disruptive part you see? You mentioned about adoption of AI by the larger players. Possibly, my next question is actually going to be David versus Goliath here. But which of the emerging technologies you think in bringing down the efficiency, in bringing down the cost of operations is going to see a takeoff?
I think to a large extent I would say AI, while obviously digital cloud
AI
is...
on what? AI on underwriting side, AI on the delivery side, AI on the customer experience
I
side?
think the area where we have seen some of the NBFCs having made that foray and significant returns on investment has actually been on the collection side. Right? There have been some good fintechs working with some of the well-known NBFCs in the country, and that's a huge pain point for a lot of MFIs and NBFCs, right? Sourcing, yes. Underwriting and fraud management, definitely yes. But eventually would want to correct as well, right? So collections is an important area where that could be a game changer of significant cost reduction. But across the value chain, definitely AI is playing a role. Yeah.
Thank you, Madhan. And I think this is a very, very smooth transition to the last player who, because let me just expand a bit on my last comment that we are seeing the need for efficiency and yet the manpower or the accounts per officer has actually come down. And I suspect the reason whenever I am, interfacing with the players in the market is collection is seeing a huge stress build up over there. And so you are seeing a lot of readjustment of the field force on the collection side. And so the last player actually comes on that, Pratyush, he's from Fingpay. Pratyush, where do you see your piece, or where do you see not just your piece, but the efficiency? Because delivery is easy. I think people are going digital over there. So on the collection side, digital still has a drag, even though there is a momentum very clearly there. There are various solution providers, all kind of stuff is happening. But in terms of bringing down the cost, in terms of reducing the field, presence, where do you see technology playing a role? Where do you see technology breaking ahead and giving industry some relief in the year to come?
Sure, Ajay. Thank you so much. Hi everyone, I am Pratyush. I run a company called Fingpay. We are a fintech enabling digital connections. The things we are discussing, Ajay or Ashish said that the headcounts have the number of accounts which a person on the field is serving has decreased. But I would like to talk a little contrary to it because, from my experience working with MFIs, a few MFIs have successfully made some of the branches completely digital, cashless. And where, a job of their field officer is two things. One is collection, second is sourcing. So if he saves time on collection, he spends more time on sourcing. So in those cashless branches, which I have seen across those microfinances, their sourcing has increased. So there actually the number of accounts which that person is serving is higher than otherwise the average. Maybe overall the number of cashless branches are low, that's why it's not seen on a overall level. But I've seen it that way. Another reason is that
any idea of the scale, these numbers could point to whatever adoption has happened in cashless branches. So what kind of reduction in overheads is seen?
So what happens is, how does the day looks like for a field officer is the first half of the day goes for collections, he brings the cash back to the branch, and then second half of the day goes for the sourcing. That's how it works, and he spends a lot of time traveling to and from the branch. Now here where the branches are cashless, he actually goes for collections. Now in every center meeting he is doing a digital collection through Aadhaar or through UPI. So he doesn't have cash to hold, and when he doesn't have cash to hold, he doesn't go back to the branch. He doesn't have to go back to the branch. So that time he can spend for more sourcing customers, and that has actually helped the microfinance, like you're talking about, reducing cost, operational efficiency, and still maintaining the model of microfinance, which is center meeting led model and people meeting. So that is serving the purpose. So that is one thing which I see if many microfinances can start making branches completely digital or cashless, and there are ways like incentivizing their field team, incentivizing customers to make a cashless payment. So that has helped in my view.
Okay. So I think we have some perspective on the efficiency side being addressed through technology. May not be able to drill deep at this time, but I hope in the next round we have some actual solutions or some actual cases being thrown around. So my next proposal is on the diversity within the microfinance which is there. So we have large players, we have small players, we have universal banks, we have NGOs, companies from the size of sub 100 crore to a trillion rupees balance sheet size. So the technology solutions, affordability is a big issue. ROI on investment is a big issue. So how do companies, how do MFIs make their choices right? Because wrong choices in technology, particularly at the enterprise level, can really take you down totally. It may not just cramp you for a while, but may actually make the transition back very difficult, and you don't know where to go from there. So at the level of offerers, how do you see the challenge that the smallest is able to compete with the largest, be it in terms of delivery efficiency, be it in terms of good underwriting, be it in terms of collection? How would the small players who don't have a large IT force make the right technology decisions? So this is a proposal for, coming from open house, I would say, that if I am let's say, a management team of sub 100, and I have a CEO who is definitely not a tech person, and he is expected to make the right technology choices. How does he go about it? How does he hire a CIO who helps him, be the bridge between technology and his business? So the role of CIO and the organization's capability to see the diverse, because divergence in technology is not good for anybody. For the industry, it's best if we are moving to a platform which is coherent. The customer sees us as a single kind of face, that if he changes from one blended to the other, he doesn't have to, be swimming for a while, because as a technology adoption at the bottom of pyramid, as such is a tough task. So for him to be dealing with very, very diverse technologies is not good for anybody at all. So once again start, or maybe this time I start in reverse. So Sudhir, Pratyush. Yeah, so the choice of the right CEO, choice of the right technology, ROI, give your free-flowing thoughts for a couple of minutes on that, and how do you see the small players actually being benefited from the latest in technologies?
So in my view, the technology is the core of everything, because the MFIs we have worked with, we see many of them are struggling with the technology part, and that is keeping them on the back foot. Some of them has done in-house development, some of them have outsourced it to multiple vendors. What I see is that if they have like you have a CEO to an organization, if they have a partner CTO who is actually with the organization, maybe a co-founder or someone, and who can lead that technology across that organization, that would make a huge impact and a very leeway from other organizations for that organization to use technology and reduce their cost of customer acquisition, reduce their cost of customer servicing, etc. So that is one way to look at it.
No, but how do you find your actual clients, coping with this? The problems which I narrated. So when you are dealing with small players and mid-sized players and the large players, how are they coping with this? That do they have a CIO problem? Do they have an issue of perspective? Because everybody is competing, everybody is surviving. So what do the best of them do? What do you see the trends there?
So the thing is that what I see here, maybe to solve that solution is working with vendors who have tried and tested the solutions and working well for the industry. Like for example, one vendor cannot be serving all of the purposes. If I talk about our industry, like we are very good in digital payments, but we didn't try LOS or we didn't try LMS because we know we may not be that good at that. So there are experts or experienced different vendors in different segments. In LOS, there is a different vendor who will help in a very automated onboarding kind of solution. In LMS, there may be a different vendor who has actually proved himself. So if an organization can pick those up, that would help them rather than taking one vendor and taking all solutions from that vendor because of cost objectives or other, and still have an in-house team who make sure that all vendors mingle around well, because that's another challenge which I see in these organizations. I think there are different vendors, but there is no in-house team which is actually coordinating among all vendors and making sure it's delivered well in time. So that's second challenge. If these two things are addressed.
Okay.
Ajay, if I can come in.
Yeah.
If I can just come in here. Just to your specific question in terms of the relevance of the CIO, I think given the current environment, and you're looking at solutions that are fast evolving and changing, and that's where you're looking at sort of definitely a player. You've also got these increased cybersecurity risks that are playing out. So therefore, in that context and environment, is a CIO an important and a critical person? Yes. So in terms of the entire ownership. Now, just to differentiate between the different kinds of players we said, whether it's the medium, it's the large, and the smaller players that is there. A lot of the technology that is now getting developed is open platforms and tech stacks that are available. The India stack today, if you look at it, whether it's the identity layer, the consent layer, or the payment layer, is accessible to everybody. You can sort of plug and play. In fact, RBI Innovation Hub itself is doing a remarkable job where they are essentially now they've come up with ULI, which is the Unified Lending Interface, which essentially is they are sort of aggregating all the different players and getting them under one digital umbrella that's there. They're talking about frictionless credit. What have they got? They've got these various APIs you can plug into, whether you want to check Aadhaar, whether you want to check PAN, whether
Ashish, that is precisely the problem. The options going up means greater amount of choices available to you, and so greater wisdom needed to exercise your choice. So let's hear from another tech guy here. So I think Mr. Visvanathan, so at your level, how do you see, because we are in the back room we were discussing, because we're coming here, about choices of the platform. We have our own platform, we take software as a service, or we have platform as a service. So perhaps, this is, my question is actually pointing to that only, right? The discussion so far, the small versus the big. And it has, connotations on the agility side for the organization also, right? And when you have a solution which is coming together at the industry level, then best of the breed practices of the industry also tend to enjoy rather than having something. So, is the small really at an advantage in some way if you're seeing emergence of platform as a service or SaaS, or what is your experience? You are reaching out, you are having players.
Yeah, so like what I was saying in the earlier conversation, right? MFI definitely, I think they're well positioned from a timing perspective in terms of leveraging what is available, right? What would not have been available to some of the large banks about a decade back. So from a people decision kind of a perspective, I think the small and medium, primarily I will look at the same. Somebody's got to run the show, somebody's got to give you the strategic perspective. For running the show, definitely, obviously, they got to have their own set of people who are going to be running the show, right? But strategically, you got to transform as well, right? The kind of tech options today that are available with all this next-gen technology, you need somebody to advise you, right? It could be a technology partner playing the larger role of being early in the game and advising them. That is something we do consciously. Or we have seen a lot of MFIs taking advisory help from external consulting firms as well. Some of them leveraging some of the technology institutions and some of the academia to have them as part of the board and things like that, right? But you will definitely need to have some kind of a tech strategy, external professional consulting individual of firms who can guide you on the change strategy. But from a BAU perspective, yes, that's where I think the CIO role will start, primarily in terms of taking external help and playing the BAU role. Eventually, they also, over a period of time, they will start playing that strategic role as well, right? That is number one. Number two, in terms of the tech options available, I think the small and medium, I think to a large extent, I think the kind of solutions being available now on cloud, a lot of NBFCs and MFIs in India are embracing cloud as well, right? Little bit outside the ambit of what the regulator says, right? I think unlike a small finance bank or a universal bank, I think MFIs are a little bit more flexibility, right? So embracing of cloud definitely is an option for you to sort of have the BAU also managed through a centralized as a service kind of an option, right? To a large extent that mitigates that initial risk of getting up and running, moving from a legacy solution to an next-gen modern age solution. So that's what brought me.
Okay. I think looking at the way time is passing, I would now try to combine the remaining three things which I was looking at covering, and the lending partners can come in, that if I will start with you guys. So one is, I think this as the agenda item, key question is the challenge in adoption, right? You mentioned that there's a challenge in adoption, even though solutions are available, is that B is delivery of value to the end customer. So digital banking is happening, digital collections are happening, and a lot of allied products. How could you really build? In the morning we were talking about how is the increasing amount of debt per family actually going to transform the family economically, unless it comes with help on that side. That how do I use the money well? So be it in financial literacy, be it help in doing the business, be it creating more marketing channels. I don't know. The possibilities are endless when you start using technology. So any emerging trends on these areas? I'll repeat: adoption of technology for the challenges, B, the window opening up or the trends emerging on giving value to the end customer using technology, and possibly C is the risk management per se, which we have touched upon so far on the collection side, and perhaps use of AI for that as well. But any pointers on anything which is now, you can say, breaking fresh ground? So let me start, once again with Ashish, being the largest on the lender side.
So
be quick about it so that we can have some couple of Q&As also.
no, thank you. Very quickly, I'll just give a couple of examples since you specifically asked for, let's say, on the risk side and what's playing out and used cases that are there. So in terms of that, Pratyush was speaking earlier in terms of center meeting and the importance of center meeting, and I think Sudhir mentioned the fact that they're looking at virtual meetings, but now AI enables us to actually run a center meeting, take a photo, and actually authenticate the attendance, right? So that's what is all possible today as regards to, it's still an incredibly important part of the microfinance world, and that's like a use case playing out. In terms of risk and credit underwriting, we spoke about the fact that you can get up to actual, and I'll give you a very simple example in terms of a lot of the funding in these places goes towards cattle, towards purchase of cattle. You can technically just take a photo of the cattle itself and the model will simulate for you what the income is, will recognize the breed and will be able to sort of simulate the entire income and kind of tell you exactly how to kind of do that. In terms of the convenience to the customer or what's in it for the customer, very simple example. Today, the lower your CIBIL score is, right, the more creditworthy and possibly the lower rate of interest that you get. Unfortunately, in the MFI world, it's all been a pretty standardized flat rate or a standard rate that's been there. But as these models evolve and emerge, different people can get access at different points and therefore they can get not only access to credit but access to cheaper credit, and that will sort of play out in there towards them.
Thank you. Rakesh.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, very pertinent question. So, as I said, that we have, I'll take the example of Life. So, we have developed the in-house credit underwriting algo, which we experimented with the help of data. We were surprised to see that it was giving more precise result. In fact, the default on the set of this predictive AI works better than the manual model. That is point number one. Point number two, with application of machine learning, if your data size is increased, the precision will increase. But yes, there are some human factors which cannot be eliminated. But definitely, the overhead will come down, the selection of customers will be better, you will have to handle the lesser manpower, and if you are increasing the database, then definitely the cost of collection will also come down with lesser delinquencies. So these have been the experiment, but it will take time. It's not going to happen.
Thank you. Sudhir.
I think you spoke about the center point as to what kind of delivery you want to give the customer. I think MFI has done a wonderful job on economic inclusion. But I think the next level of phase is going to be about the financial inclusion. And that level of phase with a single line, monoline kind of business will not be possible. So we, specifically for Jana, which I can speak of, we're trying to revolve a customer-centric solution by offering different banking products to the customer. So we do micro-lab, we open a savings account, we offer digital, we offer him insurance. So as the customer comes to the microfinance fold, when he graduates up, it will be a customer-centric solution to give him the complete range of products. And not only give him unsecured and feed him more and more in there. I think the markets at a certain stage evolves where we want to really focus on customer-centric solution, which will be a complete encompassing the complete financial inclusion piece. And that will actually help you down your risk management, all the pieces will actually fall into place. For that is what we're using a lot of technology, because we know his past payment behavior, we know where he stays, we have a human touch, and that's why we use it. That's what we use technology to make sure that he comes in the complete banking fold, or a complete banking service is what we can.
Okay. So, Madhan, can I ask you to address the adoption challenge which Sudhir was spoken about? How to what causes that? That technology is out there and adoptions are not happening. This is a general problem that round the corner technologies take sometimes decade to mainstream, right? And industry cannot wait for that. So, any thoughts on how could collectively we make that happen, or how as solution provider you see that?
I think broadly, I think.
Let me give you an example. Let's say use of let's say NLP, natural language processing. Right? It's been round the corner for almost 2 decades now. Banks have experimented, utility companies have experimented. It works fine, but we're not seeing it mainstreaming yet. I don't know why. Digital payments, they took almost 10 years to turn the corner. It's now that they're mainstream. So tech adoption, why this challenge happens? Everybody wants it, players want it. Is it affordability the issue? Is it that who does it first the issue? How do you see it?
Yeah, definitely things like affordability is very important as well. Considering this segment, it is also important for vendors who cater to that segment to look at the segment a little bit. For each of the segment, what is required? You can't look at what worked well for a bank to definitely work for an MFI as well. So you got to make sure as vendors, we are far more understanding what the customer needs. That becomes very important as well. Number two, what is also an impediment to adoption is your underlying technology maturity as well. Right? So banks have also progressed very well. They looked at modernizing their core, then they looked at investment on channels. Then they started investing on data integration, API and all that, right? It is a journey which has happened for banks over 2 decades, right?
No, I'm sorry to cut you short, but these are different times. Today is a time of AWS, Azure. So as a solution provider, if technology is not turning corner, I simply put it on the cloud there and wait for the, for everybody to be there so that the volume becomes available right away.
Absolutely.
So do we see that happening on technologies or any of the technologies which catches your fancy today?
I think so. The way, yeah, absolutely. So the way I see it is, I think there are 2 parts of technology investment for an MFI. One is there are enablers. Second is what would they need for their actual running the business, right? Enablers, I completely agree with you that you have a lot of enablers today through cloud and AI, analytics, NLP and all that. But eventually, the solution which they are currently running that also has got to be eventually modernized as well, right? If somebody who's been using a legacy in-house built solution for that last decade or so, then you've got to modernize that. So the modernization has got to happen on the technology that you're using, so that that is in a position to embrace some of the newer way of collaboration working. Because a lot of MFAs want to work with fintech as well. Then you've got to make sure your tech stack that you've got today is ready to sort of integrate with fintechs as well, right? So that is one part of the story. Yeah. So the second Ajay is that it's a very thin line also today that a lot of financial institutions are grappling between innovation and also balancing what the regulator says as well. It's a very thin line, but that adoption you got to keep that in mind. More and more you become digital, you got to make sure you have a cyber security framework, the fraud risk management framework and controls. So that's also a very, very thin line. You got to balance between, eventually you are handling customer data, customer's money as well, right? So innovation and balancing with what the regulator says is an equally an important paradigm to look at, which also is something an MFI cannot ignore.
Okay. And Pratyush, I'll just pick up from where he said, and in the morning there was a mention of sandbox, for the industry maybe. And RBI is actually running it, RBI is running its own sandboxes. So at the industry level, innovation as a solution, one morning proposal was around sandbox. How do you see that? Because what would be the expectation? If I have to ask you just in two sentences, there has to be one, sandbox for the microfinance industry. What problem or what challenge do you think it should be looking at solving?
Before that, I would want to address, like you said, technology adoption, right? I think there are, precisely if I talk about, there are two things. One is the behavior change, because whenever there is a technology which is, even pushed by the organization, they invest into a lot. The challenge in the adoption is one, behavior change of the employees and of the customers both. If we take our own example, at the airport there are kiosks where we can do a self-baggage check-in, but still we see there is a huge queue. We ourselves stand in that queue and need an assisted mode to check in on the bags. So similarly, there also the human behavior change is big thing, so that push is required. Plus there are other biases, maybe that FOS doesn't want to be get tracked or other things. That's where we face challenges while we give them the solution, but the adoption is a challenge. Okay, coming to your second question, that what technology or what something precisely can so I think the baby steps are required and nothing like big, like we are talking about AI and a lot of these stuffs, and implementing at an organization level in all functions is difficult. How it can be taken up in small forms in every process or every operational thing, and then slowly it will gain that momentum and we overall make sure that efficiency is there. According to me, that is required. Overall, if you bring something like a crystal ball kind of solution, it won't work. But in small processes, we know this takes this much time. Let's reduce it by so much by using these small things, and that implementation, in my view, will help in a longer run.
I think so. In the end, it's the clients here in the room who have to decide what kind of Shivara they are chasing. So that's all from the panel side. I think we're running out of time. Do we have time, ma'am, for one or two questions? Okay. So I'm throwing it open for just a couple of questions we will be able to take. Will somebody go with the mic? We're not looking for comments, just a question, plain question. Question for the audience. Yeah.
I had a point on this, how do you make it discipline the right technology? So if I'm allowed to share a point, then I'll share. But I don't have a question.
Okay, we had gentlemen here who wanted to ask question and here.
Hi, I'm Vatam. I head India Partnership Business for Singh. So sustainable development comes with a balance between environment, economics and social causes or needs for the future betterment, right? So what we talk about the financial inclusion. So I can understand with financial inclusion, the technology obviously that enhance the overall efforts that we are putting in to help the end customers. So on financial inclusion side, obviously the economy part is covered, but I just also want to understand from Mr. Ashish and Mr. Sudhir, like what we are doing at a bank level to help the environment for our future.
I think that's a very, very important one, and it flows from the session just before the lunch we had on the on the sustainability side. If there is a solution available around that, but this is a kind which I was also suggesting that when we are delivering value to the client, can we prepare them for adapting to the climate change? So there were specific comments made in the morning. So if any of the panelists wants to respond, if there is a specific input.
The best option at this point of time when I do a financial delivery to the customer, I have this point. And that's the only time he listens to me. That's the only time he has got patience and listens to me. And that's the right point of time where we actually do coaching saying that FLC kind of training, sustainable training, what kind of things can be used, what can be done better. And for that, the better option, we haven't still used it, which is what we are planning to do in future is, you to get local level NGOs are good in that place. As a bank, I will not have that model in place.
No, I think we can take a clue from here that when we are talking of the building the bridge with the customer delivering value, so just as we are working on financial literacy, on the environment literacy, or environmental change, if we begin right now in the we will be working at reducing our own risk as players as well, besides benefiting the society.
So
one more question only.
Just on the priority sector lending, I want to understand, since that's part of a couple of like social things, even solar is part of priority sector, right?
Everything is priority sector here, I think.
Can we consider anything on like renewable energy side which can help the end customer?
There are two people asking questions. Can we just quickly have microphone passed?
Hi sir, this is Sachin here from the insurance sector. I sir, would look to get your view as above a second question on technology, value chain and ecosystem, where insurance and insurers could help in terms of business risk reduction, credit default, which may emanate from same.
So what's the question?
What role do you think insurance and insurers could kind of play in helping build the right products or the ecosystem for lending players?
Okay, I don't know if any of the players here will answer that.
If I have that correctly, you will ask.
One more question so we can answer together. This gentleman has been trying to ask since long. Let's have both the questions and answer them together, then we can end it.
Hi, my name is Ashok. So my question is, when we hear of technology, we talk about underwriting models, etc., right, or talk about acquisition models. But MFI as a business, right, it's a very process-centric model. So would somebody share thoughts on use of low-code, no-code to reduce what I call the operational cholesterol, which, to your point, Ajay, you said while technology has come in, productivity has actually dropped. So how do we reduce operational cholesterol through quick implementable low-code, no-code kind of solutions?
Okay, great. So,
I can take that.
I think let's have the solution guy speak first. Both of you. Or the last question first.
Yeah, so low code absolutely yes, right? Low code, I would say, along with RPA tools as well, right? Both go hand in hand. That definitely can be looked at from an overall look at the process holistically and look at areas of improvement, and then how could you probably look at. But the eventual end state will be far more fruitful if we are able to look at things holistically on leveraging multiple technologies, right? Low code will probably take you to one specific direction, which will still give you an outcome, RPA in some form. But given the way technology has evolved from low code RPA to now AI and all that, eventually boils down to what are the kind of business outcome that you would want to generate, and see what is the best way to look at that. Right? I would still keep the business outcome as the focal point, and whatever it takes to make sure that outcome is generated, like the use case what you just said, right? From an MFI perspective, it is far more in terms of process, documentation, etc. May not be much on alternate data, store and scoring. Right? Look at the outcome and see what is to be done. But low code, yes, I think the world is moving towards that. In fact, a lot of financial institutions in India today looking at build approach than a buy approach as well. Right? Some of the larger banks are today who embarked on a buy option or taking the build approach, right, for some of customer facing omnichannel applications as well.
Pardon my asking, but with Jana writing the code for you, you really need no code environment.
Yeah, no, low code primarily. So the biggest pain point of looking at build approach is your time to market.
Yeah.
That's where low code probably gives you that advantage of being.
No, but I'm saying when the code is being written by generative AI today or demand. So, for us, that itself is an emerging area as well.
Absolutely.
Low code is concerned.
I agree.
Yeah. So, we'll have Sudhir speak on the issue.
Yeah. So, just one point, whenever these organizations are going through a digital transformation, that digital transformation journey, only the few points they need to keep in mind that should be much faster, simpler, not much dependent, like if, manually through paper he is doing it in 5 steps. On technology, if it can be done in 2 steps, he will definitely adopt and it's working and all that is there. So that's one thing. Second is also some ground realities. Like, when the people on the ground are working, they may be making some, side money, something on smaller things when they are doing it through paper or there is no technology involved. But when you move to these digital transformation, that thing gets, out of the system or slowly. So that's another thing. So that also how you can incentivize them, because you can't beat them. So you can incentivize them in some form or the other and, make sure they take that digital transformation. And from that transformation journey, I think digitization further will help. So
I think the agility of the system architecture becomes quite important, not just the agile development methodology, but I'm talking about the agility of the infrastructure becomes very important in making the choices there. But the insurance side, Sudhir, I think you wanted to say something first.
I'll just come in on the insurance, but just before that, if I can pick on the point, and then I have a slightly a different view on the one that you just mentioned. You mentioned about it being process-oriented and therefore operational controls and a lot of those checks bringing down the operational costs that is there. But as long as we were lending 15,000, 20,000 and 25,000 rupees, yes, it was a process-oriented business. If you look at the ticket sizes right now, they are hovering much more higher than that, right? And that's where the credit models come more into play to be able to sort of take the right calls and assess the credit worthiness. Insurance, very short answer, happy to kind of catch up after this in the paucity of time, but yes, it's incredibly important.
Players I have met in the audience who are trying to solve the same problem. Sudhir and then Rakesh also wants to add a sentence.
Just one line, just paucity of time. You talked about the cost is increasing with this productivity is decreasing. That even makes the technology more important. Now productivity is not going to go up. So with the help of technology, with all the tools we talked about in onboarding, underwriting, collection, the importance of technology increases. But at the same time, we also have to be very, very selective in choosing the technology. At the end of the day, it should be financially sustainable, it should justify, it should meet the technology and regulatory compliance requirement and as well as the business requirement.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's Sudhir. That would be the end of it before closing the
You see, the productivity is dropped. I think the productivity hasn't dropped. The batch size used to be 10, now it's come down to 3. So the human being effort is still remains the same. But we haven't come up with the curve saying that for a batch size of 3, 5, if it's an organization, I'm not saying no. How do we convert these 3 to completely virtual? But finally his effort goes out on these people are not into one virtual. So digital payments, virtual meetings, individual assessments, has it come up the curve the way the batch sizes have dropped? So once this comes up the curve, and the productivity parameters then will come into play, because 50-70% of this comes to virtual and comes to digital, then the productivity comes back to you. I think that correlation we still have to figure it out as to how do we moderate it all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, moderator of the session, and thank you so much, esteemed speakers, for bringing in such interesting inputs and observation. I know we have more questions and comments to make, but we can always use the time offline. Since we don't have much of time left for this session, we have to move on with the next session as well. Once again, a huge round of applause, and that's how we thank our esteemed panelists for bringing such interesting observations. May I now request Mr. Pramod Paliwal, who is the MD Earth Microfinance, to kindly join us onto the stage. So may I request you to kindly present a memento to our esteemed speakers and thank them. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting a memento to our moderator of the session. Thank you so much, sir, for wonderfully conducting the session. A huge round of applause for Mr. Ajay Kapur, the moderator of the session. And presenting our mementos to us esteemed speakers. Mr. Rakesh Kumar, thank you so much, sir, for your valuable inputs. We captured that in our cameras. Thank you so much, sir. A huge round of applause as we thank our honorable speakers, felicitating them with a shawl and a token of love and appreciation. Thank you so much, sir. Once again, requesting Mr. Paliwal to present all our speakers with a shawl and a memento. Thank you so much, sir, for bringing such valuable inputs. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very interesting session, and we could make it a little more lively by putting our hands together as we thank the speakers of the session. Thank you so much, sir. May I request the speakers of the session to kindly join us a little forward for a group photograph. May I request Mr. Pramod Paliwal also to kindly join us for a group photograph. In the other two adjacent halls, there are Breakaway session 2 and 3, and right after that, we would have a session which will be a combined session. We would first begin with the WASH Awards and move to a small presentation and the release of Microfinance Directory 2024, followed by our plenary session 2, which will be on the new regulatory framework in microfinance experiences so far. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a short break here, but I request you all to kindly join us back by 3:20 for us to begin with our WASH Award.